Okay, well, let's pivot to specifically Justice Democrats and what you all have done and what a huge year you've had and supporting progressive candidates who won their primaries: Cori Bush in Missouri, Kara Eastman in Nebraska, Jamal Bowman in New York. And
so cool.
So fucking cool. I mean, Cori Bush's win was like, and Jamal, I mean, all of these wins. And I believe Kara Eastman, that wasn't her first time running, was it?
Marie Newman.
Oh, Marie Newman.
Yeah. This is her second time running.
Okay, yeah. So it's like
in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question is, what were these districts like before? Were they all safely blue? And are you guys mostly running and feel like the strategy is to run against more centrist, moderate Democrats in safely blue districts? Or have you been able to flip red districts?
Well, I just wanted to start out by saying I'm having a little deja vu in this interview because the first time we ever talked was when you made me do a therapy session with you at the DNC in 2016 when Bernie Sanders dropped out. You wanted to make me talk about my feelings, my stages of grief. And, 4 years later, we have many things I'm happy to report on.
Yay. You've improved so much, Waleed.
Thank you, therapist. I like to hear some positive feedback. So, but yeah, I think that, so these districts are heavily blue, the ones that we won in. They're places where like President Obama and Hillary Clinton won like 80-20, 90-10. But the issue is that the voters in those districts, these are really diverse districts. They're heavily young. And just the Democrat, like if the best we can do in the bluest parts of the country are like Dianne Feinstein and Eliot Engel and Andrew Cuomo, like Joe Crowley, then those are the bluest parts of the country. Like if that's the best we can do, then the Democratic Party has a fundamental problem. And that's the hypothesis that Justice Democrats is putting to the test. We do endorse in red districts. Kara Eastman in Nebraska is running in a red district now. These are, if we can get enough of these Bernie voters and enough young people and progressives and people of color to just choose an alternative, then we can really send a signal to the Democratic Party that there's a new generation of people coming. And that's who Jamal is, that's who Cori is, that's who Marie is. And to be honest, I didn't know we could, after AOC, I was like, they're never going to let us win another one of these. It'll be so, because that was so hard. And, it's been way harder this year, but seems like there are voters who are hungry for change. And even in Jamal's district, there might have been people who voted for Joe Biden and Jamal in the primary too. So people can be two minds about things too.
Absolutely. I feel like whatever happens, I've said before, whatever happens in this election, I do think either the Republican Party or the Democratic Party will be completely undone by this election. I don't know if you agree with that. I don't know where you stand with that. I mean, for me, I think if Biden loses, even he said himself, and this was really fascinating, the guy's a fairly honest person, because he was like, someone asked him like, what if you lose? He was like, well, then I ran a shitty campaign. Well, then I did a really bad job. And think about it. If you can't win against Trump under COVID conditions, right? That doesn't say a great thing about your campaign. But I do think that, so if he loses, you're remaking the Democratic Party, obviously. I think a lot of folks like myself making these big old pleas to vote for Biden when he drops the ball, that changes the whole situation. And I think that the Republicans, if Donald Trump loses, you're going to see those Lincoln Project folks are going to be like, let us take the party now, yes. But like in terms of remaking, how do we continue to remake the Democratic Party? How do you get a Joe Biden to embrace the legacy of FDR and leave behind the legacy of Clinton and neoliberalism if he wins?
I think the first thing is that we have to win more seats in Congress. I mean, I think there was this myth that like if we just elected Bernie Sanders as president, everything would be fine. But we really didn't have, the squad is just 4 people. The Progressive Caucus could be more, like do more shit all the time. You just need way more people in there to start. And, right now with the squad, with Jamal, with Cori Marie, that's like 7 people. You have Mondaire Jones, an 8th person. Like even with that small of a group of people who are willing to speak out on things, it really does make a difference. And you have to remember all this stuff just started on this electoral front really 4 years ago. And so it's still a pretty young left. You know, I know people are like rightfully impatient about things not happening, but I think if we elect more people to the Congress, they'll have way more negotiating power because all the bills have to come through Congress. I also think Joe Biden, like, he is not someone who's super ideological. There's this funny interview. I mean, it's not funny. It's actually really horrible. There's an interview with Chuck Schumer where there's an interview with Chuck Schumer where he says the first question I ask anyone who interviews for a job with me is I ask them where I am on a 0 to 100 conservative liberal spectrum, which is can you just imagine being in an interview and being just asked the math equation as your first thing? But he says, I'm a 75, which means he's been a 75 for 30 years. And I think Joe Biden has been a 75 for 30 years, where he's just in the middle of the Democratic Party. So as long as other people around these establishment Democrats.
75. I don't.
That's what he says.
He's. I mean, he's 76 years old.
You were talking about his age.
No, but they're just kind of weather vanes where they're like, if the party is moving to the left, they're going to move to the left, but you have to move the whole weather around for these people because they have no real like beliefs about anything.
Absolutely. I mean, it reminds me of like Veep. I mean, Veep is so cynical. It's hilarious, but it's so cynical. But you know, the favorite part is like when they're like, "Why do you want to be president?" And she's like, well, does not know, just doesn't know. And like, yes, constantly looking around and like looking for approval. And look, I think Kamala also is like a very capable person, but I do think she falls in that same vein of like, I want to be liked, you know? So, you know, pressure her, you know, and I think those folks, they're more open to pressure.